what's happening in Poland and Lithuania and all that sort of stuff, yeah, it's very, very clear. Anti-Semitism is the weapon of choice for East European ruling classes. Not in this country. In this country, it's anti-black racism. That's the main one. But you pick your poison, but I mean, that's what it's about. It's using, because it's, that was the established one, they're still using it. And it was very interesting what you're saying about the teaching of Polish history. I'll just tell you about the 1905 revolution. The 1905 revolution, I mentioned, Jews were very, very active. I mean, in the 1905 revolution, 93% of everyone was on strike in Poland. 93%. But Jews were only 12% of the population. So I haven't done the maths, but the other 70, whatever it was, were non-Jewish radical Poles. And so they do want to wipe out the whole question, no, we might be kind to the Jews, but forget there was a class struggle. It wasn't about Jews, it was about the class struggle of the working class versus the ruling class. And so divide and rule is the name of the game then, and people were talking about it. You can be completely pro-Israel and totally anti-Semitic. In fact, you usually are. People like Maloney, Orban, Morris are exactly that. Okay, moving on. Greta's question about the statistics of, right. So, I think it's, and the comrade who spoke last, it's quite important to remember that one of the problems with what's happening now is that there is a rise in anti-Semitism precisely because of what Israel is doing. That will reinforce the Zionists, actually. There's a current pulling people towards opposing genocide, but there's another current pulling, well, actually maybe we are invented, maybe we do need to be able to run away to Israel if we need to. So it's split. All I can tell you about is statistics before the thing. I mean, I think Mark's right about there's this, in organised activist terms, there's lots of Jews on the streets supporting Palestine and etc., which is brilliant. But the statistics are as follows. Something like 85% of Jews in this country that are asked, do you support the existence of Israel, say yes. Right? 67% vote Tory. That, if you did it before the war, you got exactly the other way around. The backbone, the Labour, etc., etc., etc. No, it's had an impact. It's not gone. Okay, so where does that leave us now? Being determinist consciousness, Marx said that, right? If you're in Israel, you are living in somebody else's house that you've stolen, you're getting supplies of weapons and billions of pounds from America and from the EU and all the rest of it, you've got a vastly better living standard than the Palestinians, because the Palestinians are being bombed to hell, etc., etc., there's their land. The Israeli settler colonialists, because that's what they are, will not break. They might argue, and they are arguing, do we want a one-state solution from the river to the sea, pure Jewish, which is what Smotrich and that lot, Ben-Gvir, are after, or do we want a two-state solution, which is the South African solution of, the white South Africa and the Bantustans. That's the debate. That's all the debate, unfortunately. I wish it was different. It's not going to change there until you actually have massive pressure. In the same way in South Africa, apartheid did not break because the whites sat down and said, yeah, maybe the blacks have been badly treated, we should change our mind. No, it was a massive force of working class action from below, by the blacks, plus international sanctions, etc., etc., etc. It's much harder in the Middle East because Palestinian numbers are less and they haven't got control. They're not a working class in the Israeli economy. But basically, don't wait for Israel, the Israeli working class, to come up with an answer. They won't. They're settler colonialists and they're moving to the right. All of them are moving to the right. But they're arguing amongst themselves about which right-wing solution will work. That's the problem we have. So, but over here it's entirely different. Over here, you're watching the genocide, you're seeing what's happening, you realise how disgusting it is, you realise that it's in your name that it's being done, and it's making it more dangerous for you. In other words, there is the potential, as was being said, to build a real, a revival of the Jewish radical tradition in this country, anywhere outside of Israel. In Israel, unfortunately not. The last statistic, which is a depressing one, 55% of Jews in the world live in Israel now.
No.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Because the Holocaust had an effect. And that's, so people have gone there. Yeah.
I thought it was a load of left as well, though, isn't it?
Yeah, that might. I mean, yes, things might be happening now. But what I'm saying is that so there is a shift. There's a material shift which is going to be hard to change over there, but over here, absolutely not. Absolutely, we'll win all sorts of people. I had my first Jewish-only meeting to launch this book in Edinburgh University last week, and it was great. So no, things can move. Okay, so that's to answer that question there. The last question, when you said you're at a tangent, not at all. That wasn't at a tangent. The whole argument about the Jewish radical tradition being the radical tradition, and the core of it being the fight against oppression and exploitation, is tremendously important. Because being oppressed does not naturally lead you to support the working class. Because it's a cross-class thing. If you're a woman, you can be an upper-class woman or a lower-class woman. If you're gay, you could be upper-class gay. Well, there's no natural either solidarity between the oppressed themselves, because each oppression is different from every other oppression, for different reasons. Therefore, you're not naturally, and that's how you can get the radical feminists, etc., who are transphobic. And there's no natural solidarity there, nor is there a natural solidarity with the working class. If you're a woman, the vast majority of the people who, sexually harassed, etc., are not upper class, because there are not many of them. It's mostly middle and lower class, working class men. So what's important about the Jewish radical tradition is it points the way to ending oppression and exploitation. You cannot end this horrible capitalist system. You can't stop global warming. You can't stop the wars that are going around. You can't stop the mass starvation. You can't stop the decline in living standards. You can't stop what's happening in Sudan. Let's forget don't forget there's hundreds of thousands of people being murdered in Sudan. You cannot stop any of those unless we stop capitalism, right? Equally, you cannot stop oppression unless you stop capitalism. Why? Because where does oppression come from? It doesn't come from you, me, whatever. It comes from a system, and you said it right at the beginning of the meeting, that needs to divide and rule. They need oppression to keep going, because there's a tiny number of them. They've got billions and billions of pounds, and they've got lots of security guards, and they've got yachts, and they've got all the, but they've got nothing else apart from ideology, from the way they split us. So what the Jewish radical tradition shows, and I don't have time to talk about it much, but it's 1917. 1917 was the greatest step forward for the working class of the world, the greatest step forward for women in the world in terms of equality, the greatest step forward for gays in the world because there was first legislation, etc. on that, and the greatest step forward for Jews. And it was the greatest step forward for the working class. In other words, we will not win unless we unite. We unite against oppression, we unite against exploitation, we unite against climate change, we unite against the racists, we unite against the Tories. And that, in a sense, is the radical Jewish tradition. Join the party if you haven't.